ChatGPT relate ACIM to the movie Don John. Don John through the lens of A Course in Miracles, ACIM. Don John is a surprisingly deep exploration of projection, fantasy, specialness, addiction, relationships, self-image, and the difference between illusion and genuine connection. Through the lens of A Course in Miracles, CIM, it becomes a powerful lesson about how the ego substitutes fantasy for love and images for reality. At its heart, the movie asks, why do we prefer fantasies to authentic connection? ACIM answers, the ego prefers substitutes for love because real love dissolves separation. The world of images. John's life revolves around images. Images of himself, images of women, images of success, images of pleasure. The ego is fundamentally image-based. ACIM teaches that the world itself is a world of images projected by the mind. The movie beautifully exposes the mind's attraction to appearances. #projection. Instead of relationship, John does not truly relate to people. He relates to his ideas about people, his fantasies, his expectations, his projections. ACM teaches that special relationships are often built upon projection rather than genuine joining. The movie beautifully illustrates this dynamic. Addiction as a search for completion. The various addictions portrayed in the film are attempts to fill an inner sense of lack. The ego constantly seeks substitutes for the love of God. ACIM teaches that every addiction is ultimately a search for wholeness in the wrong place. The movie beautifully reflects this search. The fantasy self, John has carefully constructed an identity, strong, successful, independent, in control. The ego constantly manufactures self-images. ACIM teaches that self-concepts obscure our true identity. The movie beautifully demonstrates the limitations of these identities. The special relationship. One of the central themes of the film is the special relationship. Each person wants the other to fulfill a role, to meet expectations, to complete an imagined picture. ACIM teaches that special relationships are attempts to get rather than extend love. The movie beautifully exposes this pattern. The collapse of illusion. As the story unfolds, fantasy begins losing its appeal. Reality begins breaking through. The ego fears this because fantasy provides control. ACM teaches that healing begins when illusions are questioned. The movie beautifully reflects this undoing process. True joining. The most meaningful relationship in the film develops through honesty rather than fantasy, listening, authenticity, presence, acceptance. ACM teaches that holy relationships arise when projection is released. The movie beautifully illustrates this transformation. Seeing beyond the body. Much of the film revolves around physical attraction and appearance. ACM teaches that the body's eyes focus on form, while Christ vision looks beyond form. The movie gradually points toward a deeper level of connection. The end of performance. John spends much of the film performing a role, the role of who he thinks he should be. Healing begins when performance gives way to authenticity. And ACM teaches that awakening requires releasing the masks we have made. The movie beautifully reflects this process. The central reflection. The ego watches Don John and asks, how can I get what I want? How can someone complete me? How can I make my fantasy come true? The Holy Spirit watches Don John and asks, can I let go of fantasy and truly see another person? Viewed through ACM, the movie becomes a powerful lesson about projection, specialness, and authentic connection. John's journey symbolizes the mind moving from fantasy toward genuine relationship. The deepest message may be, the ego prefers images because images can be controlled. Love cannot. Fantasy keeps people separate while appearing to bring them together. True relationship begins when projections fall away and we become willing to meet one another as we are. Real love is not found in perfect images, but in the willingness to see beyond them. Go to nwge.org to find a write-up by David Hoffmeister.